Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The Richard Simmons family would like Pauly Shore to just cut it out. In case you're not familiar with the story, Pauly Shore has expressed a desire to play Richard Simmons in a biopic. He's been talking about it for quite a while now. He'll offer updates in his social media. Usually the updates have Richard Simmons asking Pauly Shore to stop. Richard has now passed away. Entertainment Tonight asked Pauly Shore, all right, what's happening now? Pauly said, I know he wanted me to do it. I don't even know if it was him tweeting disapproval the whole time, to be quite honest. I don't know who that was. Well, from beyond the grave, Richard Simmons' social media is now posting, Dickie absolutely wrote his own posts. He worked on them a week in advance, going over and over them to get the right message. He would often read them to Kathy and I beforehand. This is believed to be attributed to his brother Lenny. What he has not done was to text, email, or call Pauly Shore with anything, not even to wish him good luck, as Pauly has said many times. We'll see if this movie ever happens. Theo Vaughn excited for the NFL season. He posted on his socials, AFC North is going to be bananas this year. Best division. Joe Rogan talked about booking the podcast and said, I don't look at the numbers. I don't pay attention to how many downloads. It's not like feverishly checking what's good and what's bad. I don't look at like what the retention is or when people drop out. I know that's up to them. My job is just to have an interesting conversation with people that I'm actually excited about talking to. That's my only job. So the way I book it, I completely book it based on my interests. I don't have a publicist that's like examining trends in this person's popularity. I don't do any of that. Rogan's special not getting good reviews. I haven't seen a good review of it yet. I think everyone kind of came in where I did, which was, it was all right. I mean, there was Joe Rogan doing Joe Rogan stuff, nothing special. When did Joe know that the podcast had made it? He said, I'll tell you when I realized it. It was like 2011 or 2012. I was on stage at the Chicago Theater, and I was doing comedy, and I asked the audience, I was going to tell a story from the podcast, and I said, how many of you guys listen to the podcast? And it was just like, yay, 3,700 people cheering, and I was like, whoa, I'll never forget that moment. Nicole Byer was on Jesse Tyler Ferguson's podcast, told an icky story. She said, I did shows in Appleton, Wisconsin, which I'll talk about in my special, and I really hated it there. The vibes effing sucked. During my show, I had a white host, a black featurer, and the crowds were so unruly. At one point, my black feature was on stage, and a guy in the crowd was like, this is terrible. Smile, we can't see you. I was like, what the F? After the audience member made the remark, Byer walked out on the floor and looked at a server. I was like, you're not going to say anything? And the server was like, what? Byer said, I refused to do the meet and greets, even though it was sold with the tickets. I told my agent, I'm just not meeting with these people. I'm sure there's nice people in this crowd, but overall garbage, bad people, bad vibes. I couldn't believe that man said that. Sheng Wang said when he first tried up stand-up in college, he was basically doing an impersonation of Chris Rock, because that was one of the only comedians he'd ever seen on TV. Everything changed when he saw Mitch Hedberg for the first time. Are we having the Hedbergisance? I hope so. I'm a big Mitch fan. I was thinking after I recorded yesterday's show, of all my various half-ass impressions, the first one that I started doing on the podcast was half-ass Mitch Hedberg. I'm not going to do it for you today, but that one will be coming back. Sheng Wang said, it changed my whole idea of what stand-up could be because it suddenly felt like I could maybe do that. I could maybe just share those thoughts I have. I'm just a pretty low-key person, so that's how it always was from the beginning. I'm not a fast talker. I was not quick with comebacks or anything like that. As for Sheng Wang's now familiar look of long hair, he says that is totally a pandemic accident. I wasn't planning on keeping it. I just wanted to see how it would look. But then people kept saying nice things, and slowly it just felt like it did look like me now. He thought about cutting it before taping his special. Ali Wang convinced him to keep it. Sheng says, my whole career before this, I was trying to be as mundane and boring as far from my physical appearance to be as bland as possible. The idea was not to be distracting. That's the mindset I had, was to go on stage and let the jokes speak for themselves and not have things that people can think about or judge me on. Vulture checked out that Comics for Kamala the other night. Apparently Matt Friend was doing Howard Stern. He does a good Howard Stern, but it's a weird move. I grew up listening to Howard Stern. Howard went to Sirius in 2006, so he's been candidly out of the spotlight. I mean, the media will write about him, but no one under 40 cares about Howard Stern at this point. So it's a good impression by Matt, but who are you going after, Matt? Well, you might as well do John Wayne. Anyway, on Comics for Kamala, Cecily Strong joked, J.D. Vance is confusing because his rhetoric wants us to panic about immigrants, but his eyeliner wants us to panic at the disco. She then joked there's speculation that Trump is unhappy with J.D. Vance and is thinking about getting rid of him, but he better hurry because it's been 6 weeks. I did go looking for Kamala Harris jokes to keep this fair. Didn't find any. Send them my way. Happy to do them. Colin Jost will be the new headliner at the Fringe. No, not that one. The Rochester Fringe Festival. He will replace Pete Davidson, who canceled his show. All tickets previously bought for Pete Davidson will automatically be honored for the Colin Jost show. Anyone who doesn't want to see Colin Jost can return them for a full refund. Colin Jost now playing the Kodak Hall at the Eastman Theater on Friday, September 13th. If you enjoy what I do here, one way to support the show is go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. There's some money in the tip jar. I will go to the National Donuts chain and enjoy a large iced coffee with caramel and milk on you. I've been good. I haven't been buying anything other than coffee. Just trying to get all that processed sugar out of my system. I'm trying to stay this fat. It's hard enough staying this fat. So I'm laying off and being good. I'm having my breakfast shakes. I'm trying. Catherine Cohen announced her new special. It's called Come For Me. I guess I could have put a different verbal spin on that. I'm not sure how she intends it. I'm going to take it that she wants us to go see her. You can interpret it however you want. Come For Me will be on Veeps at approximately 5 p.m. Pacific on Thursday, October 17th. I guess the lawyers got involved and said, hey, you can't promise exactly 5 p.m. Pacific. You never know what happens with streaming and delays and internet. We got to be careful here. Part stand-up comedy, part cabaret. Come For Me is billed as an openly glamorous, decidedly horny exploration of what it means to be a woman entering her 30s. So perhaps my verbal spin on the title is incorrect, but we all have the giggles now. Hannah Gadsby talked to The Guardian about the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, where Colin Jost is not expected to perform. Anna said, in 2006, I slept in a closet, performed to fewer than 100 people across my whole time there, and got hit by a golf ball. I also lost an obscene amount of money and cried 3 times in public. Then I came runner-up in the Fringe's So You Think You're Funny competition, but it doesn't really factor in my memory list that year because success is not what defines the Fringe experience. Failure does. The Fringe might promise to make your showbiz dreams come true, but in reality, it's more likely to give you scurvy. I returned to the Fringe with 8 shows over the next decade. I wouldn't say I experienced much of the way of success in the time, but my failure rate remained consistently high. In 2011, I came off my bike and cracked my head open on some cobblestones. Another year, I committed to having a healthy Fringe and swore off alcohol. I opted instead to prop myself up with an artificially sweetened caffeine product, and as a result, I enjoyed a month-long jittering that looked very much like what those in ye old times would have described as a nervous breakdown. Then there was the year my pockets were literally too shallow, and I lost my wallet, my replacement wallet, and the envelope I used to replace that. When I returned in 2017 with Nanette, I was not gambling. I knew I had a show that could not be ignored, and I was right. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that Nanette is one of the most successful stand-up shows to ever go at the Fringe. I didn't even lose that much money. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. Share an episode with them. You know what I'm saying? Nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? See you tomorrow.